The rhythmic thwump-thwump-thwump of the tennis ball hitting the weathered brick of the garage was the heartbeat of Malik's evening. Each catch by his German Shepherd Zeus was a solid, satisfying clap of jaws. At 48, Malik Jefferson found his peace in these simple rituals. His broad shoulders, built from years of manual labor before his life changed, relaxed as he watched Zeus, a majestic sable-and-black dog with intelligent, alert eyes, execute a perfect leaping catch. "Good boy, Zeus. That's my good boy." Malik's voice, a deep, warm baritone, echoed in the quiet cul-de-sac of the Northwood subdivision. From her perfectly manicured porch across the street, Brenda Carlisle, 52, watched through the slats of her white vinyl fence. Her lips were pursed into a tight line of disapproval. Every thud of the ball, every joyful bark from Zeus, was a personal affront to her curated silence. She was a woman whose life was governed by rules and appearances, her blonde bob never out of place, her capri pants eternally crisp. "It's a nuisance, Richard," she declared to her husband, who was buried in a newspaper inside. "That dog is a menace. It's always barking, always running loose. It's only a matter of time before it attacks someone." "It's in his own backyard, Brenda," Richard mumbled, not looking up, "and it's a fenced yard." "The noise carries," she insisted, her voice sharp. "And look at the size of it. People like him shouldn't have aggressive breeds like that. They can't control them." The coded language was as clear as the summer air. People like him. Malik, a single black man, had moved into Northwood 6 months ago. He kept to himself. His property was immaculate, and Zeus was his only family. But to Brenda, his very presence was a violation of the neighborhood's unspoken homogeneity. The final straw came the next morning. Malik was doing yard work, Zeus lying contentedly in a sunny patch of grass. A leaf blower started up 2 houses down. Zeus, startled, let out a single, sharp bark. It was all the justification Brenda needed. She marched inside and dialed the county animal control with practiced outrage. "Yes, I'd like to report a dangerous and neglected animal," she said, her voice dripping with feigned concern. "A German Shepherd at 214 Northwood Circle. It's constantly barking. Sounds very aggressive, and I've seen it running loose. The owner is, well, he's not very responsible. I fear for the children on this street." She hung up, a smug smile playing on her lips. She had done her civic duty. An hour later, a county animal control truck, white and official-looking, pulled up to Malik's house. Brenda watched from her window, her phone already recording, eager to capture the moment of comeuppance. Officer Dan Murray, a young, earnest man in a uniform, approached Malik, who was now watering his flower beds. Zeus sat attentively at Malik's side, his tail giving a slow, curious wag. "Sir, we've received a complaint about your dog," Officer Murray began, clipboard in hand. "Allegations of excessive barking, aggression, and being at large." Malik turned off the hose, his expression calm but his eyes sharpening. "Is that right? And who made this complaint?" "I'm not at liberty to say, sir." "Can you confirm this is your dog? Do you have proof of vaccination and license?" Before Malik could answer, Brenda, unable to contain herself, scurried across the street. "Officer, thank you for coming so quickly. I'm the one who called. That animal is a constant disturbance. It's only a matter of time before something terrible happens." Malik looked from Brenda to the officer, a slow smile spreading across his face. It wasn't a smile of amusement, but one of cold, hard understanding. He'd faced this kind of thinly veiled prejudice his whole life, in school, on job sites, and now, in his own backyard. "Zeus is a certified therapy dog, officer," Malik said, his voice even. "His vaccinations are up to date, and as you can see, he's contained on my property. He barks occasionally, as dogs do, but excessive is a subjective term, don't you think?" Brenda scoffed. "Therapy dog? Don't make me laugh. You need to take that beast away, officer." Officer Murray looked uncomfortable. "Sir, I still need to see the paperwork." "Of course," Malik said. "It's right inside. But while I'm getting it, there's something you should see on your truck's computer. Check the department's organizational chart. My profile should be there." Officer Murray frowned, confused, but walked back to his vehicle. Brenda stood triumphantly, arms crossed. This was going even better than she'd hoped. A moment later, Officer Murray emerged from the truck, his face pale. He walked back, his posture completely changed. Stiffer, more formal. He handed the clipboard back to Malik, not to take notes, but for him to see. Mr. Jefferson? Director Jefferson. Officer Murray stammered. I didn't realize it was you, sir. I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. Brenda's smug smile vanished. Director? What is he talking about? Malik took the clipboard. On it was a printout of the county website. Under the Animal Services Department was a photo of Malik in a suit and tie with the title, Malik Jefferson, Director. He looked up, his gaze locking with Brenda's. That's right, Ms. Carlisle. I don't just know the animal control bylaws. I write them. Brenda's face went from confusion to shock, then to a blotchy, humiliated red. She took a step back as if physically struck. Malik handed the clipboard back to Officer Murray. The complaint is unfounded and, I suspect, racially motivated. You can close the file. And Brenda, he added, his voice dropping to a calm, authoritative tone that brooked no argument. The next time you have a concern about my dog or anything else on my property, I suggest you come talk to me directly, instead of making assumptions. As a stunned Brenda retreated to her house, and the animal control truck drove away, Malik felt a small victory. But as he looked at Zeus, a cold knot tightened in his stomach. Brenda Carlisle wasn't just a nosy neighbor. She was the head of the Northwood Homeowners Association. He had just publicly humiliated her. And people in power didn't take humiliation lightly. His phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a text from his deputy director. Malik, you'd better get down here. The mayor's office just forwarded a formal complaint from the Northwood HOA. They're alleging misconduct and abuse of power. It seems someone is trying to get you fired. The quiet of Malik's home office was shattered by the text. Asterisk misconduct. Abuse of power. Asterisk the words glared from his phone screen. Cold and official. Brenda Carlisle hadn't just slunk away in shame. She had launched a preemptive strike, leveraging her position as HOA president to strike at his livelihood. The animal control call was just the opening salvo. This was the real battle. A bitter smile touched Malik's lips. He'd spent a decade cleaning up the county's chronically underfunded and mismanaged Animal Services Department, fighting for better facilities and ethical practices. Now, his reward was a politically motivated complaint alleging he'd used his position to intimidate a concerned citizen. He called his deputy director, Maria Garcia. Maria, what's the status? It's a formal inquiry, Malik. Maria's voice was tight with anger. The mayor's chief of staff sent it over. They're asking for a full report. Brenda Carlisle is claiming you threatened her and flaunted your authority to avoid a lawful inspection. It's a lie, Malik said, his voice steady despite the fury boiling in his gut. I know that. You know that. But the optics are bad, Maria replied. A department head accused of bullying a white woman in his own neighborhood? The press would have a field day. They've given us 48 hours to respond. Malik's mind, trained for crisis management, shifted into gear. He couldn't just offend. He had to expose. Brenda was powerful, but she was also arrogant. Arrogant people made mistakes. Don't write the report yet, Malik instructed. I'm going to do a little research of my own. He spent the evening digging, not into Brenda, but into Northwood itself. He pulled county records, cross-referencing HOA violation notices with property sales. A pattern began to emerge, subtle but persistent. Over the past 5 years, several minority-owned households had received a sudden, overwhelming barrage of HOA fines for unapproved paint colors, unsightly native plants, or excessive holiday decorations. In each case, the families had sold their homes within 6 months, often to a single, anonymous LLC called Heritage Properties. It was a ghost of a pattern, but it was there. Brenda Carlisle wasn't just a racist busybody. She was a public face of a system that quietly pushed out undesirables to maintain the neighborhood's character. Malik was her latest target. The next day, Malik decided to go on the offensive. He attended the monthly HOA meeting, Zeus waiting patiently in his car. The room fell silent when he entered. Brenda, presiding from the head table, flushed a deep crimson but maintained her composure. "This meeting is for residents in good standing," she declared, her voice icy. "My dues are paid, Brenda," Malik replied, taking a seat in the front row. "I'm here to discuss the selective enforcement of HOA bylaws. Specifically, why certain homeowners seem to be targeted with frivolous complaints." A murmur rippled through the room. Brenda's eyes narrowed. "We enforce the rules equally, Mr. Jefferson." "Do you?" Malik asked, his voice calm but projecting to the entire room. "Then perhaps you can explain why the Henderson family, the only black family on Sycamore Lane, was fined for a non-compliant garden gnome, while the Millers of 3 on their porch. Or why the Garcias were cited for noise violation during a birthday party that ended at 9 p.m., while the annual block party you host runs past midnight." He had the dates, the addresses, the specific bylaw numbers. He presented them not with anger, but with the cool, factual precision of a director presenting a budget report. He was using her own weapon, rules and bureaucracy, against her. Brenda was flustered. Those are completely different situations. This is a targeted harassment campaign because of the animal control call. "The animal control call you made under false pretenses?" Malik countered. "The one the officer himself deemed unfounded?" The room was now divided. Some residents looked at Brenda with newfound suspicion. Others glared at Malik, seeing only a troublemaker. It was then that an older white man, Mr. Gable, stood up. "Malik's right," he said, his voice shaky but firm. "My son on the architectural committee has been uneasy about this for years. The fines aren't random. They're strategic." Brenda's mask of control shattered. "This is slander. I will not be spoken to this way. Security, please remove Mr. Jefferson." As a rent-a-cop approached, Malik stood, his point made. He had planted the seed of doubt. But as he walked out, he saw the look in Brenda's eyes. It wasn't just anger, it was fear. He was getting too close to the truth. Back home, feeling a small sense of victory, he checked his email. There was a new message sent to his official county address. The subject line was blank. The body contained only a single, grainy photograph, taken from a distance. It was a picture of Zeus lying in his fenced backyard. The message below it read, "Such a beautiful dog. It would be a shame if something happened to him. Accidents happen so easily. Back off." The cold knot in Malik's stomach turned to ice. This was no longer about fines or job complaints. They had threatened his dog. They had threatened his family. The grainy photo of Zeus felt like a physical blow. The anonymous threat, asterisk, "accidents happen so easily, asterisk," wasn't just an attack on his dog. It was a violation of the one sacred, peaceful space in Malik's life. The calm, strategic director vanished, replaced by a protective, furious guardian. They had threatened his family. He immediately forwarded the email to Maria Garcia and the county's IT security, but he knew tracing it would be a long shot. This was a professional escalation. Brenda Carlisle might be the public face of the harassment, but this felt different, colder. "They've shown their hand, Maria," Malik said, his voice tight over the phone. "This isn't about HOA bylaws anymore. This is intimidation. I'm installing security cameras today, and Zeus does not go outside unsupervised." "Malik, you should go to police," Maria urged, her voice full of concern. "And say what? I received a vague email. They'll file a report, and that'll be it." "No, we need to prove who's behind this." His first call was to Mr. Gable, the man who had spoken up at the meeting. "I need to know everything your son has seen or heard on that architectural committee," Malik said. "Any unusual discussions about property acquisitions? Any pressure from Brenda?" Mr. Gable agreed to help, his conscience clearly outweighing his fear. Next, Malik decided to confront Brenda directly, but on his terms. He waited until he saw her retrieving her mail and walked across the street, Zeus remaining safely inside, watching from the window. "Brenda," he called, his voice calm but leaving no room for pleasantries. She jumped, clutching her envelopes to her chest like a shield. "What do you want?" "I think you know. The anonymous email stopped. The threats stopped. Now." Her eyes widened with genuine-looking shock. Threats? What are you talking about? I have no idea. Cut the act, Malik interrupted, his gaze hard. You started this with your false animal control call. You escalated it with your lies to the mayor's office. And now, someone is threatening my dog. This ends here, or I will use every resource at my disposal to bury you and whoever you're working with. For a split second, he saw it. Not guilt, but a flicker of fear in her eyes. She was in over her head. I didn't send any emails. You're paranoid. You're the one harassing me. She turned and hurried inside, slamming the door. The interaction left Malik unsettled. Her denial had felt real. Was she that good an actress? Or was there another player in the game? That evening, Mr. Gable called back, his voice hushed. Malik, my son looked deeper. He found something. There's a clause in the HOA's master insurance policy. A massive payout is triggered if a homeowner is deemed a public nuisance, and their pet causes substantial bodily harm. The policy pays out to the HOA itself, not the victim. Malik's blood ran cold. Substantial bodily harm? My son thinks. He thinks they might be planning to stage an attack. To get you removed and collect the insurance money. It would discredit you completely and provide a financial windfall. The pieces snapped together with terrifying clarity. The false aggression complaint, the threat against Zeus, they weren't just trying to scare him. They were setting the stage to use Zeus, to provoke him or hurt him in a way that would look like an unprovoked attack on someone. Probably Brenda herself. He ended the call and immediately went to check on Zeus, his heart pounding. The dog thumped his tail, oblivious to the conspiracy swirling around him. Malik's mind raced. He had the cameras. He had his wits. But he was facing an enemy willing to harm an animal and risk human injury to achieve their goals. Just then, his doorbell rang. He looked through the peephole. A uniformed police officer stood on his porch. Mr. Jefferson? We received a noise complaint about a dog barking incessantly. The caller also expressed concerns about the animal's welfare, stating it sounds distressed. We need to take a look. It was a setup. The police visit was a pretext. While he was distracted at the door, someone else could be in his backyard, taunting Zeus, trying to provoke the very reaction they needed. Malik opened the door, his mind screaming in silent alarm. He had to get the officer to leave, and he had to check his backyard now. The police officer's presence was a diversion. Malik knew it in his bones. Every second he spent at the front door was a second someone could be using to provoke Zeus in the backyard. Officer, my dog is fine, Malik said, his voice urgent but controlled. He kept the door partially closed, blocking the view inside. He's a certified therapy animal, and he's not barking. As you can hear, the backyard was silent, eerily silent. I still need to verify his well-being, sir. It's procedure, the officer replied, his hand resting on his belt. Malik's mind raced. He couldn't refuse, but he couldn't let the officer inside to waste more time. He's in the backyard. Let me bring him to you. He didn't wait for permission. He turned and strode through the house, his heart hammering against his ribs. He burst through the back door into the twilight. Zeus was standing stiff-legged, a low, menacing growl rumbling in his chest, a sound Malik had never heard from him before. At the far end of the fence yard, a figure in a dark hoodie was just vaulting over the fence, disappearing into the neighboring wooded lot. In their gloved hand, they clutched a long, slender object that looked like a cattle prod. They hadn't just been taunting him. They'd been trying to hurt him, to enrage him into attacking. Zeus, Malik commanded. Heel. The dog immediately broke his stance and trotted to Malik's side, but his body was still tense, his eyes fixed on the spot where the intruder had vanished. Malik's security camera, mounted under the eaves, had a clear view of the entire yard. He had them. He had proof of trespassing and attempted animal cruelty. He quickly led a confused Zeus back to the front porch. Officer, as you can see, my dog is perfectly healthy and calm. What you just witnessed was an attempted break-in. Someone was in my backyard trying to provoke my dog while you had me occupied at the front door. I have it all on camera. The officer's professional demeanor shifted instantly. Show me. Back inside, Malik pulled up the footage. The video was crystal clear. The hooded figure climbing the fence, approaching a wary Zeus with a prod, Zeus's defensive posture and the figure fleeing. It was undeniable. "I'll need a copy of that," the officer said, his tone now serious. "This is breaking and entering. I'll file a report immediately." The police left, but the victory felt hollow. The trap had been sophisticated, coordinated. A police distraction and a physical provocateur working in tandem. This was no longer just Brenda Carlisle. She might be the architect, but she had hired muscle. Malik called Maria Garcia. They just tried to provoke Zeus into attacking. I have it on film. "My God, Malik, this is insane." What did the police say? "They're filing a report." "But Maria, I need you to do something. Use your contacts at the city clerk's office. I need to know who owns that shell company, Heritage Properties. I need a name. This ends now." An hour later, Maria called back, her voice tight with excitement. "I got it. The registered agent for Heritage Properties is a lawyer named David Sterling." The name meant nothing to Malik. And David Sterling is the brother-in-law of Robert Carlisle, Brenda's husband. Malik felt a cold satisfaction. The circle was complete. The Carlisles weren't just enforcing racist preferences. They were running a lucrative, predatory scheme to flip homes for profit, using the HOA as their enforcement arm. The insurance payout from a staged dog attack would have been a nasty but profitable bonus. He had the connection. He had the video evidence. It was time to end this. He drafted a single, powerful email. He attached the security footage in a concise document linking Brenda Carlisle to Heritage Properties LLC via her brother-in-law. He addressed it to the entire city council, the mayor, the chief of police, and every major news outlet in the city. His finger hovered over the send button. This would expose them. It would destroy their reputations and likely land them in jail. It was everything he had worked for. Just as he was about to click, his personal cell phone buzzed. It was a number he didn't recognize. He answered. A digitally distorted voice spoke, slow and menacing. "Send that email, and you'll be burying your dog tomorrow. We don't just know where you live. We know his schedule. We know his vet. We know the route you walk him every night at 9 p.m. This is your only warning. Drop it." The line went dead. Malik's blood turned to ice. They weren't just threatening his property. They were promising a specific, imminent retaliation. They had been watching him. They knew his routines. They knew Zeus's. He looked at the send button, then at Zeus, who was sleeping peacefully at his feet. He had the power to destroy them, but doing so would put a target on the one being he loved most. The distorted voice's threat echoed in the silence of Malik's home, a chilling promise that froze his hand over the keyboard. The cursor hovered over the send button that would unleash his evidence and destroy the Carlisles. But the cost was spelled out in stark digital tones. Asterisk, you'll be burying your dog tomorrow. Asterisk. He slowly moved his hand away from the mouse as if it were a live wire. He looked at Zeus, sleeping trustingly at his feet, his massive chest rising and falling in a rhythm of perfect peace. Malik's own heart felt like it was being crushed in a vice. He had the power to bring down his enemies, but using it made him the architect of his dog's death. For the first time in this fight, true, paralyzing fear took hold. This was no longer a battle of bylaws or even public reputation. This was a direct, visceral threat against his family. He called Maria, his voice hollow. "Don't send anything. Stand down." "Malik? What's wrong?" "We have them. They threatened Zeus. Directly. They know his walk schedule, his vet. They'll kill him if we go public." Maria was silent for a long moment. "Okay," she finally said, her voice soft with understanding. "Okay, so what's the plan?" "There's no plan," Malik whispered, the defeat tasting like ash. "I can't risk it." But as the night wore on, a cold, clear resolve began to cut through the fear. Surrender wasn't an option. It would only embolden them, and they would eventually come for him or Zeus. Again, anyway. He had to fight, but he had to be smarter. He had to turn their own weapon, secrecy and intimidation, against them. He couldn't send the email to the world, but he could send it to one person. The next morning, Malik requested an emergency, in-person meeting with the one person in city government who had both the power and a reputation for ruthless pragmatism. City Councilwoman Eleanor Vance, chair of the Public Safety Committee and a known rival of the mayor. In her austere office, Malik laid it all out without emotion. He showed her the security footage of the attempted provocation. He showed her the paper trail linking Brenda Carlisle to Heritage Properties. He explained the insurance scheme and the anonymous threat. They threatened the city department head and his family to cover up a criminal conspiracy that exploits city residents. Malik concluded, his voice flat. This is happening in your district, councilwoman. The press would call it a public safety crisis. Or, you can help me handle it quietly, and you get the credit for rooting out corruption and protecting a valued public servant. Councilwoman Vance steepled her fingers, her eyes sharp. She saw the political victory. Clean and simple. What do you need? A wire, Malik said. And your word that when I give the signal, your allies in the police department will move in. I'm going to get Brenda to confess everything. On the record. The plan was audacious and dangerous. Malik would go to Brenda's house, ostensibly to capitulate. Wearing a wire, he would tell her he was dropping the complaint, resigning from his position, and even considering selling his house. His desperation, he hoped, would make her arrogant. He would bait her into admitting the entire scheme. That afternoon, Malik walked across the street, the tiny recording device stuck to his chest feeling like a lead weight. Zeus was safe with Maria, miles away at an undisclosed location. Brenda answered the door, a look of smug triumph already on her face. I wonder when you come to your senses. You win, Malik said, letting his shoulders slump in a convincing show of defeat. He stepped inside. I'm dropping everything. I'll resign. I need to know why. Why all of this? Just because of the dog. Brenda laughed. The sound sharp and condescending. It was never about the dog. It was about the precedent. You moving in here, acting like you own the place, flouting the rules. It was an infection. We couldn't have that. The Heritage Plan only works if the neighborhood remains stable. And she talked. Emboldened by a surrender, she detailed it all. The selective fines, the pressure campaigns on other minority families, the profitable flip of their properties through her brother-in-law's LLC. She even hinted, with a wicked smile, that the unfortunate incident with his dog had been a necessary piece of leverage. It was a full confession. It was everything he needed. So, we have an understanding, she said, concluding her monologue of arrogance. We have an understanding, Malik repeated, his hand subtly moving to his phone in his pocket to send a pre-typed go signal to Councilwoman Vance. He stood to leave, the weight of the wire now feeling like a shield. It was over. He had won. But as he reached the door, Brenda's husband, Robert, stepped out of study, holding a small handheld electronic device. It was blinking with a steady red light. You're a smart man, Jefferson, Robert said, his voice calm and cold. But you're not the only one who takes precautions. That's a signal sweeper. It's been blinking since you walked in. Who are you transmitting to? Brenda's face transformed from smugness to sheer, unadulterated fury. Robert didn't wait for an answer. He pulled out his own phone. The contingency plan, he said into the receiver. Do it. Now. Malik's blood ran cold. The contingency plan. They had a backup. The trap had been sprung, but he was the one still caught in it. Robert Carlyle's words. Asterisk the contingency plan. Do it. Now. Asterisk. Hung in the air, a detonator countdown Malik couldn't stop. The smug triumph he'd felt with Brenda's confession evaporated, replaced by a cold, primal dread. Contingency plan. The words could only mean one thing. Zeus, what did you do? Malik's voice was a low growl, all pretense of surrender gone. Brenda's furious expression twisted into a vicious smile. You should have just moved. Malik didn't wait. He shoved past Robert, bursting out the front door and into the street, his phone already at his ear, dialing Maria. Maria, they have a contingency. They're going for Zeus. Where is he? He's safe, Malik. He's with me at the secure kennel, just like we planned. The doors are locked. The place is a fortress. But Malik's heart wouldn't stop racing. The Carlisles were too calculated, too thorough. A contingency wouldn't be a simple break-in at a known location. He sprinted across the street to his own house, taking the steps two at a time, his mind racing through every variable. His personal cell phone rang. An unknown number. He answered, panting. "Director Jefferson?" A woman's voice asked, professional but tense. "This is Sergeant Evans with the county sheriff's office. We have a situation. We received a credible bomb threat at the main animal shelter. The caller stated a device was planted in the kennel wing. We're evacuating the facility immediately." The world tilted. The shelter, of course. They hadn't gone for Zeus directly. They had gone for his life's work. The place he was sworn to protect. The home to hundreds of innocent animals. The contingency was an act of mass murder designed to destroy him professionally and personally in one fell swoop. If animals died because of his personal feud, his career was over. His spirit would be shattered. And in the chaos, who would notice one missing German Shepherd from a secure, private kennel? It was a perfect diversion. "It's a diversion, Sergeant!" Malik yelled, already running to his car. "The threat is against my dog. You need to secure the perimeter, but the real target is elsewhere." "Sir, our protocol is to treat a bomb threat as credible until proven otherwise. We are evacuating." He had to get to Maria. He screeched out of his driveway, phone on speaker, calling her again. "Malik, what's happening?" "I just got an alert about the shelter. It's a trick. They're creating chaos to snatch Zeus. Do not open that door for anyone. I don't care if it's a uniformed officer. No one." As he sped through traffic, a horrifying thought occurred to him. The Carlisles knew everything about his routines. They knew about the secure kennel. They would have planned for it. The bomb threat wasn't just a diversion for a snatch and grab. It was a diversion for a swift, professional extraction. He was still 5 minutes away when Maria's scream came through the phone. "Malik, a van, a county animal control van just pulled up there at the gate with official paperwork." His blood ran cold. They were using his own organization, the very system he commanded, as the weapon. Do not let them in. They're imposters. They have badges. They have an order signed by a judge. It says Zeus is to be seized as evidence in the investigation into you. The brilliance and brutality of it was breathtaking. While the entire department was distracted by a bomb threat at the main shelter, a rogue team, perhaps hired mercenaries with forged credentials, was using the chaos to legally kidnap his dog under the color of law. He heard shouting through the phone, the sound of heavy tools on metal. They were breaking in. "I'm almost there," he screamed, swerving around a slow-moving car. He arrived at the secluded kennel facility to see a white county-style van peeling out of the driveway, its tires squealing. Maria was in the driveway, sobbing, pointing after it. They took him. They had a court order. They muzzled him and took him. Malik didn't hesitate. He slammed his foot on the accelerator and gave chase. He called Councilwoman Vance. The wire he was still wearing now a live feed to her and the police. "They have my dog. They're in a white van heading south on Pine. This is a confession. They're enacting their conspiracy live." A voice, Robert Carlisle's, crackled over the wire from Malik's own chest, patched in through the councilwoman. "The asset is secured. Proceeding to the rendezvous point for disposal." Disposal. The word was a knife to Malik's heart. What happened next was a blur of sirens and screeching tires. Councilwoman Vance had mobilized everything. Police cruisers converged, boxing in the white van just 3 miles from the kennel. The doors were thrown open, and the officers inside were dragged out in cuffs. Malik didn't wait. He ran to the back of the van, his hands shaking so badly he could barely work the handle. He yanked the doors open. There was Zeus, muzzled but unharmed, his intelligent eyes wide with confusion, but tail giving a tentative thump upon seeing his human. It was over. The fallout was swift and absolute. The recorded confession, combined with the live audio of the kidnapping, was irrefutable. Brenda and Robert Carlisle, along with their brother-in-law and the hired operatives, were arrested on a litany of charges, including conspiracy, filing a false report, kidnapping, and hate crimes. The H-Way was placed under federal supervision. A week later, Malik stood with Zeus in his backyard, the rising sun painting the sky in hues of gold and orange. The rhythmic thwump-thwump-thwump of the tennis ball had returned, the heartbeat of his home restored. His phone buzzed. It was a text from Mr. Gable. Asterisk, the for sale sign is up at the Carlisle house. Asterisk. Malik looked at Zeus, who dropped the slobbery ball at his feet. No one is going to take our home, boy, Malik said, his voice quiet and firm. No one. He threw the ball, watching his best friend leap with unbridled joy. The shadow of prejudice finally lifted from their lives. Prejudice called for backup, but justice answered the call. Courage isn't the absence of fear, but the love that fights through it. Subscribe for more stories of resilience. The fight for this backyard is over, but the fight for justice continues.